Teach us to treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Oh, teach us to treasure each day. Vino ti amenu, vino ti amenu, vino ti amenu, ken ona, vinavi leva chokma. Adam im ben shana yiyeh, were a person to live but a single year, or even 1,000. Kilo haya yiyeh, it would not seem enough. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our few days in eternity. So teach us to number our days, that we may get us a heart of wisdom. Strengthen us to walk through the sadness with courage. Even when the loss is overwhelming, let us affirm the goodness of life itself. I'm Rabbi Gila Langner, a member of Fabrangen, and I welcome everybody's presence here today to remember, to honor, to mourn the passing of Rhonda Weiss. From the Wisdom of Solomon, written 2,000 plus years ago. A good person, though taken from us too soon, will rest in peace, for honor in old age does not come from length of life. Honor in old age does not come from length of years. Understanding is the gray hair of humanity. A blameless life is ripeness of age. Perfection in limited years is like living for many. So a good person, though taken from us too soon, will rest in peace. Let us then with peace of mind, let that good soul rest. We come together today to remember and mourn the death of Rhonda Weiss, Razel Gittel, Bat Batya Bunya v'Yosef Moshe, Aleha Shalom, peace be upon her, and to offer comfort and support today and in the weeks ahead to those who were closest to her, her husband Alan, their children Jordan and Ilana, her sister Etta, nephew Ben Mani and niece Alyssa Mani, her dear friend Marley Weiss, the band of angels that cared for her so lovingly over the last several months, and many other beloved friends and co-workers. We come together with mixed emotions, with shock and bewilderment at how quickly this terrible illness took Rhonda's life, with great sadness at her untimely passing, and with admiration and love for an incredible soul whom we were privileged to know and love and learn from. Rhonda was born in December 1950 in Philadelphia, the younger of two daughters of Jordan Weiss and Beatrice Kaminsky Weiss. Rhonda was born with premature retinopathy and was visually impaired from birth. It would be true to say that the condition defined Rhonda's life, but it would be an understatement to say that Rhonda never let it get in her way. She absorbed the message early on that life would be hard for her, but with her mother's urging and advocacy, Rhonda set her sights high. She not only achieved more than anyone imagined for her, she also turned her disability into a teaching tool to make other people's lives better and wiser and more sensitive. Public school was not easy, however, and in her youth Rhonda was dogged by isolation and loneliness. Nevertheless, she persisted. She attended the University of Pennsylvania as an undergraduate. She moved on to Bryn Mawr for a master's in social work, and she returned to Penn for a law degree. After graduation, she started off in a bank job in Philadelphia and was admitted to the Pennsylvania bar. In 1980, she decided to move to D.C. to take a job in the federal government. Her parents worried about her living alone at Tassel, but it didn't faze Rhonda. She became a lawyer and policy analyst at the Department of Education, and there she spent the next 41 and a half years until her emergency retirement last month. She started off in the Office of General Counsel, and over the years she was assigned to several lengthy details, first to the Office of Civil Rights, and then to the Office of Special Education Programs. She then came back to OGC as a senior attorney. I don't know that Rhonda encountered outright discrimination in her professional life, but Alan speculated that perhaps her achievements were not fully recognized, or perhaps the promotions were withheld that might have been hers if she had been cited. Rhonda was rightfully proud of becoming an expert on special education law and did important work in the department. You'll hear more about that from some of her co-workers shortly. In recent years, Rhonda expanded her focus on disability awareness to the Jewish community. I think many of us at Farbrengen learned about disabilities from Rhonda's talks. She helped raise our sensitivity to issues of inclusive language and physical access. Early on after moving to D.C., Rhonda discovered Farbrengen. She had grown up with a decent Jewish education, but I think it's fair to say that unlike most kids in Hebrew school, Rhonda found a lifelong connection to God, to the liturgy, to the act of lifting one's voice in prayer. Farbrengen became a second home, offering her a warm community of friends and a place to daven, to lead services, to develop her beautiful voice, to begin composing prayer melodies. I'd like to think that helped see her through the death of her father when she was 33. She had a deep connection with her father and loved him dearly. The loss was felt for years after. 5 years after moving to town, and with the help of Naomi Freeman and a Jewish singles canoe trip above Great Falls, Rhonda met Alan Hirsch. Alan told me that their first date was downtown at Bacchus Restaurant. They met at the subway on a warm, rainy day in October and proceeded to get lost. Notably, it was Rhonda who figured out where the restaurant was. Alan summed up his feelings that evening this way: she's really pretty, she's really smart, she's seriously Jewish. They married in September 1987. Rhonda was nervous about being able to manage children, but open to trying. Jordan was born in 1992, Ilana in 1994. In Lloyd Wolf's marvelous book on Jewish mothers, Rhonda spoke eloquently about the challenges of being a mother and blind, especially with young children. But she noted, "My home is like any American home with small children, full of clutter. I'm a lawyer, but I'm also a mom concerned with the day-to-day details that moms think about. Who needs shoes? Who needs a haircut?" Suffice it to say that Jordan and Ilana have been pillars of Rhonda's life, the focus of her love and attention, of worry and pride. Rhonda wouldn't have been a true Jewish mother without all that. For Rhonda, a deep connection with God gave her strength and clarity. She wrote, "I believe that a lot of the decisions I make and the values I have are because of the human-God relationships and the commitment to Jewish tradition." She continued, "I feel God's presence in time of sorrow, need, tragedy, and at times of blessing and thanking God for bounties." Can anyone who saw her forget the sight of Rhonda leading services, her hands skimming over the large Braille Siddur, her voice rising like a songbird into lofty heights? It was an experience we treasured even as late as the second day of Rosh Hashanah, which I believe was the last time she led a service. She insisted on getting the liturgy right, even repeating lines when she skipped them. We had the sense then, I think, that this might be one of the last times the songbird of Farbrengen would soar. All during the summer, Rhonda's thoughts were on high holidays. She so desperately wanted one more chance to sing Kol Nidre, to speak about what it meant to her, to be with the congregation that she had loved and helped to lead. When I and other friends visited with Rhonda over the summer, she would sing through the liturgy with us by heart, each prayer bringing her such joy and uplift. In June, she told me she wanted time to learn more about the prayers and to improve her Hebrew. In July, we talked about creating a CD of her singing, but we never got to it. She was a voracious reader, Rhonda, a member of 4 book clubs. She was devoted to physical fitness and walked for miles with Alan every day during the pandemic until her illness made that too difficult. She had deep, long-lasting friendships and equally deep, more recently found relationships. There was still so much to do, so much she wanted to learn and read and sing and write about. Speaking at Rhonda and Alan's Offer 34 years ago, I pointed out that the beautiful Haftorah portion from Isaiah that morning was actually a response to disaster. Isaiah taught us that the proper answer for disaster is love. It is to draw ever more closely together, soul to soul, community to community, people to God. Destruction, despair, abandonment may come, but the covenantal bonds of love and partnership and friendship can endure even beyond death. These words of Isaiah ring deeply for us today. For the mountains may stir and the hills be whittled away, but my love for you will not depart, and my covenant of peace will never be shaken. To Alan and Jordan and Ilana and Etta, your hearts are broken now, and they will be for some time. We don't know how you will heal, when you will find joy again. We know it will happen in time. Your memories of family life together, the values that Rhonda put into practice, the love she shared, it is yours now to hold, to treasure. May you be blessed with her determination, her strength, her optimism, her force of will. May you heal from the things she was not able to give you, including more time, much more time on earth. And may your friends and community stand with you as you need them to in the weeks and months ahead, giving you the space and support to absorb this loss and to move forward with courage and a sense of peace. Let me call on Alan to share with us a poem he's written.
Try not to choke. Go over to the mic.
Yeah, go to the mic.
Just watch out.
Yeah, it's sort of.
To my precious Rhonda. The refrain comes from John Donne. It's rather famous. Death be not proud. You robbed her love of its just reward. Death be not proud. You stilled the sweet song of spring in her ears. Death be not proud. You cut short her heart's dreams. Death be not proud. You buried her golden voice. Death be not proud. You bathed me in tears. Death be not proud. You closed the doors to her grace. Death be not proud. You ravaged the beautiful sword of her fierce courage. Death be not proud. You have robbed me of the sweet spice of her. Death be not proud. You have stolen from me the ecstasy of holding her close. Death, be not proud. Now I can never repay the gift of her faith in me. Death, be not proud. You will drape me in loneliness. Death, be not proud. I will pay you no homage.
I have remembrances from some of Rhonda's family. Etta, did you want to begin?
Well, I guess I want to start by saying, it was unusual to me when I came here that everybody called my sister Rhonda. To our family and to me, she's always been Ronnie. So I guess when she came to D.C., she took her professional name, and that's what she chose. So I'll call her Ronnie. So you'll know who I'm talking about. I think that from the earliest that I can remember, our mother absolutely taught me, and it was in our home, that Ronnie was going to have every opportunity that I had. It was just the two girls, and her two girls were going to be able to cling to the moon, do whatever they wanted in this world. And my mother was a school teacher, so she had to really try a variety of things to find the right opportunity for Ronnie to have that life that she has. But given all that, given all the opportunities that she got to be normal, to do the things everybody else did, I taught her to tie her shoes with bunny ears in our car when she was like 4 years old. So everything was supposed to be the way it was. She did what I did, and if she needed help, we gave her help, and otherwise she just came along, and that was the way it was. But I think the most important thing that I have to say is that, one of the important things, even given all that opportunity, she was the one with her spirit and her heart and her soul and her work and everything that was Ronnie. She was the one that did it. She's the one that created this wonderful life that she had. She was the one that went after it and never said no and just kept trying. And, when she was in college, she was going to go on a ski trip for the blind. So, this gives you just a little insight into what she was going to do. There was nothing to stop her. There were no restrictions. And look at the world she created. What a legacy. Two beautiful children. A world of friends. And I'm just so proud. And if my parents were here, they would just be so proud. And I've never been anything but just so proud of my baby sister. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Etta. Jordy, Alana, do you feel up to speaking?
Well, first I wanted to say this is, she could see how many people cared enough to come out and honor her life. I think she would really like that. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I'm gonna keep this brief because I know I can't get through much. I am my mother's daughter in so many profound ways. I struggled for a long time at how to approach this eulogy because fundamentally this day is about my mother, but the bond between a mother and a daughter cannot really be elucidated without talking about myself. My mother and I often had a deeply complicated relationship, but in recent years it had blossomed into a really wonderful friendship. We called each other daily, sometimes multiple times a day, and I have felt a very palpable loneliness since she went into hospice, and especially now that she's gone, because I don't know who to call, just to say hello. It's true that my mother was strong-willed and opinionated, and I am no different. She was intelligent, pedantic, and passionate. I can't speak to the intelligence part, but I do believe I inherited her propensity for passion and pedantry. Many people today will mention her incredible memory, and we have lost a well of personal and professional history in her passing. The truth is we did not agree on everything. In fact, this caused considerable tension as I grew older and contributed to our somewhat complicated relationship. And ultimately, we did not share something that was deeply important to her, which was her love of Judaism. And this was a source of strife, but this really did ease in recent years as it became clear that loving each other was not conditional on loving my choices. And that's what makes her a really incredible mother. My mom was she was deeply protective of me and my brother. She fit that Jewish mother stereotype to a T. If she felt like we were in danger in some way or being mistreated, she would defend us to the death, basically. And this mostly manifested in fights with school administrators. So, of course, publicly she would come to our aid, but if she felt that was privately undeserved, she would let us know. That was my mother, and I loved her. Still love her, present tense. But anyway, in my 20s, my mother became one of my closest confidants and best friends. If I was upset, she would be the first person I would call. She was an incredible resource for good counsel and life experience. So I didn't intend to make this eulogy about me, but as I sat here thinking about the profound effect she's had on my life, I couldn't help but consider the myriad of ways in which she's shaped who I am. I know I'll be okay, because she raised me to be resilient. But still, I'll never be the same without her. One day, I will look back and smile at all the gifts she gave me, how she made me a better person, and molded me into a strong, independent woman. But for now, I'm devastated. I guess, yeah.
You're going to sing first, George?
Do the eulogy first. I don't have something as eloquent as my sister, who's always been a fantastic writer, so just one memory of my mother that sticks out in my brain is I was in high school, maybe freshman year, and a reporter from the school newspaper called me up and asked me about what was then diagnosed as ADHD. I ended up talking to her for a bit and spouting a bunch of BS about how I'm insane, how I'm crazy, yada 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 yada. And my mom heard me talking on the phone, and she took the phone and was like, you do know, ma'am, that this is a very serious condition, and I do not appreciate you writing sensationalist stories about my son. I got angry at her, yada yada yada, but at the end of the day, I didn't appreciate it at the time, but she was looking out for me then. She always looked out for me then. She really cared about my development and opportunities, and she was deeply, deeply proud of my accomplishments. And she's gone. The sun sets on Rhonda Weiss. I promised her I would sing Nowhere Man, because I sang it to her while she was sick, and she loved it, so I'm going to do that right now. He's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody. Doesn't have a point of view, knows not where he's going to. Isn't he a bit like you and me? Nowhere man, please listen. You don't know what you're missing. Nowhere man, the world is at your command. He's as blind as he can be, just sees what he wants to see. Nowhere man, can you see me at all? Nowhere man, don't worry, take your time, don't hurry, leave it all till somebody else lends you a hand. La, 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 la. Doesn't have a point of view, no he a bit like you and me? Nowhere, man, please listen. You don't know what you're missing. Nowhere, man, the world is at your command. La, 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 la. He's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody. Making all his nowhere plans for nobody. Making all his nowhere plans for nobody.
Thank you, Anna and Jordy. I wonder if we could have some brief remarks from friends and coworkers. Marley Weiss first. I think, is Lisa Pagano here as well? Oh, good. Okay. And then Nancy Deutsch and Joel Schwartz.
Is Joel here? Joel?
So with some apologies, this is actually not going to be so brief. So you can just start hissing and booing and telling me to move off the stage if I'm running too long. I have gone back and forth over how to begin talking about my incredible friendship with Rhonda Weiss, my now departed sister by choice, and the intense sense of loss that I feel. In so many ways, she was a best friend and sister to me, and I to her. Losing her feels like having a piece of my heart ripped out of my chest. This is particularly sad since we first began to know each other in the aftermath of the death by cancer of my life partner, Ginny Brown, when Rhonda's friendship was essential in helping me to heal from that devastating loss. Rhonda's deep friendship has played a key role in the restoration of my sense of centering, balance, and love of life, which I otherwise might never have recovered. Even as I mourn the loss of my adopted sister, I am comforted by the fact that because of her, I have a niece by choice, Rhonda's daughter Alana, a nephew by choice, Jordan, and a close personal friendship and brotherhood with her husband, Alan. When my birth sister, Judy, and her husband, Mark Lederhandler, joined a Zoom Seder a year and a half ago with Rhonda, Alan, Jordan, Alana, and I, my sister Judy expressed her understanding that the two Weiss/Hirsch families, although not related by blood, had merged through love and friendship. A very important part of the sisterhood between Rhonda and me, I have come to recognize, is that we have been morot l'chaim, teachers of life to each other. A morel l'chaim, this is a well-known Israeli dance for those of you that know I'm now an Israeli dance fanatic. This is a well-known Israeli dance by Gadi Biton, is a life mentor, someone who helps guide their friend through self-actualization and development. Although we met later in life, Rhonda and I shared an intense intellectual curiosity and thirst for knowledge. Because we had reciprocal backgrounds and gaps in some key areas of common interest, many of our activities involved teaching each other at a direct level about these areas of our lives and understanding, and at a deeper level about how to live a fulfilling, creative, and joyous life. There is only time today to mention a few of the most important. Our shared love of music, the revival of my long-abandoned enthusiasm for prayer and some aspects of Judaica through Rhonda's deep devotion to the field, travel and vacationing, disability and civil rights law in substance, and simple daily interactions of care and concern. I will say a few words about each in the time remaining. As you know, Rhonda had an exquisitely beautiful voice and loved to sing, particularly liturgical music. As I returned to my Jewish roots after a decades-long detour, in so many ways she encouraged me to regain my fluency in reading and davening in Hebrew. I would never have attempted to learn to lead the Farbrengen Havurah Shabbat Torah service absent Rhonda's encouragement. I would never have tried to learn to lead the Rosh Hashanah Torah service, and then 2 years ago to chant Kol Nidre, as well as other portions of the Yom Kippur Arvit service, were it not for Rhonda's incredible encouragement and support. She taught me that I could sing, at least well enough to lead services, even though the last time before recent years that I had done anything of the sort was probably leading Birkat HaMazon when I was still in my teens. She practiced her portions of high holiday services with me over and over, while I practiced my portions with her. She gave me the confidence to aspire to learn the Hallel service, which I occasionally sang responsive portions of on Zoom with her this year, and which includes some of my very favorite liturgical music from my youthful days at Camp Ramah. It is my intent, in her honor, to try and master that service this year. I, on the other hand, shared with Rhonda my growing enthusiasm for Israeli folk dancing and Israeli music. When she and Alan spent time with me on Cape Cod, I would play the videos of the dances I was learning, and Rhonda would sing along to the ones she liked the best. These happened to be some of my very favorites, Shav El Admati, and especially the hauntingly beautiful Katonti. I was going to try and sing some of it, but I'm not going to. You'll have to wait till the Shiva Minyan if you'd like to hear it. And there is a story about Katonti that I will also reserve until the Shiva Minyan. Because of her blindness, Rhonda never fully learned to move through space the way a body must to dance. She could move her body in time to the music, but not in the repetitive, coordinated way that dancing involves. There was a plan that when we went back to my vacation house on Cape Cod this summer, I would teach her a few dance steps. But the brain cancer diagnosis in June disrupted the planned vacation with her and Alan only a few days before our anticipated departure. I also taught Rhonda to love opera as much as I do. She had thought of opera in the vernacular as high-pitched screeching sound, rather than exquisite music. But exposure to great performance recordings changed her outlook. Both on the Cape and in my home in Maryland, we would play Metropolitan Opera videos and enjoy the gorgeous music together. The off-the-charts vocal quality was a revelation to her. And we went together to Washington National Opera performances, which was a form of ecstasy for each of us. There was a plan to subscribe together to a performance series this year, which sadly will never happen. And I am still struggling to grasp the fact that I will never sing again with Rhonda. Rhonda taught me to understand disability, especially for someone disabled from birth, in an entirely different and deeper emotional way than I had previously, even though I have been teaching classes in disability rights law as part of my anti-discrimination law courses for 3 decades. Rhonda's image is always present in my mind in all of my classes whenever discussions of the Americans with Disabilities Act comes up. In addition, she helped me to realize how deep the impact of disability is on friendships and relationships with others. I became close friends with her because she was a brilliant, stimulating, intensely interesting person, while paying little attention to her blindness. It was only after we had become friends that she explained to me that she had never before been able to form such a close friendship with anyone, and how much she had envied those of her acquaintances who had that type of friendship. To anyone thinking that I gave more to Rhonda than she gave to me, let me disabuse you of that wildly erroneous notion. Unlike Rhonda, I've had many close friendships over the years, but none of them closer, more supportive and caring than Rhonda's friendship with me. This brings me to the tremendous fun we had traveling and vacationing together sometimes with Alan, and other times alone. The times with the two of them, Alan and Rhonda on Cape Cod, were incredibly relaxing and fulfilling for me. And the trip to Hawaii with Rhonda alone in December of 2019 was a blast. We had such a great time exploring the ocean, the resort swimming pool, the fabulous landscape of Kauai together. Not to mention me introducing her to sushi and sashimi with the freshest and most delicious raw fish anywhere in the world. It was only after she accepted my invitation to her to accompany me to Kauai that Rhonda informed me that none of her other friends had ever before invited her to travel with them, as she perceived it, for fear that her dependency on them would be too great. Needless to say, Rhonda's independent spirit always made traveling with her a pleasure, and what little support she required was no burden at all. But this also taught me a lot about how disability affects people's lives and friendships. Finally, I have to say a few words about the day-to-day interactions we had. You've heard something very similar from Alana to what I'm about to say. Rhonda was like a sister who would call me briefly almost every morning just to check in. She also knew that she had carte blanche to call or text me whenever there was some burning question she wanted to discuss, and vice versa. That might be a legal issue she wanted to kick around with me that arose in her work as a disability rights lawyer at the U.S. Department of Education, or it might be a personal question, or it might be whether we could get together for dinner over the weekend. For me, it might be asking her advice about how to deal with a problematic student or colleague, or a troublesome friend or acquaintance. We each loved to problem solve for each other. As the pandemic took hold, Rhonda, Allen, and I, occasionally with other friends and family members, ate restaurant takeout meals together outdoors in my backyard or on my front porch nearly every week. I like to think the friendship and companionship sustained all of us through this terribly isolating period. And of course, it further deepened our friendship. It is impossible to express how much we learned from each other, Rhonda and I, about friendship, about living life fully, and about ourselves. We have each been morot l'chaim for each other. It will be so difficult to carry on without her.
Thank you, Molly. Let me invite up Lisa Pagano and Nancy Deutsch, if you would step forward. It's an honor to be asked to speak on behalf of the friendship and the professional relationship I had with Rhonda Weiss. Alana, I agree, your mom would be so thrilled that all of these people came to her last party, if you will. I'm seeing so many of my colleagues from the Department of Education here, and I know tons are watching via Zoom. So no pressure on me, but they're all here for Rhonda. I'm Lisa Pagano, and a colleague of Rhonda's at the U.S. Department of Education. I thought about what I wanted to say today, and I really wish that Rhonda was around to help me, because Rhonda was always good at helping me rewrite anything that I wrote to make it sound a lot better. So I wish I had worked with her in advance to do her justice. Rhonda was not only a cherished colleague of mine, but we became good friends. We met shortly after I joined the department 15 years ago, but it really was over the last several years that we began to work together closely, as in daily, collaborating on policy documents and really thorny legal issues related to the education of children with disabilities. We researched, analyzed, and definitely debated these issues on a daily basis, sometimes several times a day. You'd think we'd solve the problem, we had the answer, and then Rhonda would call back and say, I've thought about it a different way. Can we talk about it again? Rhonda made sure any decision or recommendation on an issue was thoroughly researched, argued from every angle,
and then some more before settling on an answer. Pretty much every piece of really important guidance or policy document that I've worked on with Rhonda, and way before I came along, has Rhonda's mark on it, and it really is quite a phenomenal accomplishment, what she has been able to do during her many years at the department. I've never encountered anyone before or since, and maybe never will, who has the ability to recall dates, statutory and regulatory citations, correspondence from decades ago, or even prior discussions that aren't documented anywhere, as well as Rhonda. She's a remarkable historian. She could locate passages in her braille text more quickly than the rest of us, who were sighted, would search electronically, would be fastly turning the pages, and Rhonda had it. But most of the time, she didn't even need to do that. Rhonda could recite regulatory language, statutory language, word for word, verbatim, without even looking. And it could be from the 90s. It's not even just like the most current information. She was so well versed in so many areas of the law. Really, I've told her she was a Jill of all trades when it came to disability laws. Wasn't always fun times, though. We had some frustrating times, too. Like when Rhonda told me during our work on a really lengthy document, and I was the one questioning one of our decisions, "Lisa, you just have to let it go," she said. And when that happened, I knew I had dwelled upon it way too long, even for Rhonda. Lesson learned. But we didn't only focus on our work. Rhonda liked to shop, and I do too. And we would talk about our favorite purchases. Ooh, the Nordstrom anniversary sale's coming up, right? She turned me on to her favorite skincare online store. We shared suggestions about skincare products and told stories of her travels. And Marley, I'm so glad to hear you speak today. I feel like I knew you from how she spoke about Marley. Rhonda's skin was utterly perfect, and that's probably because her favorite store is called what, Alan? Lovely Skin, even though you tell her ugly skin. Yeah. She'd love to eat. Yeah, she'd love to eat out. I was so thrilled that she was able to celebrate your birthday, Marley, with a dinner. She had to tell me what every person ordered and how delicious it was. Rhonda did love to eat out. Above all these things, though, Rhonda was really a trusted confidant for me, and I loved her. Earlier this year, Rhonda shared with me the remarks she had prepared to honor the life of her dear friend and colleague, Tom Irvin, which she delivered just a few months ago. I went back and reviewed her draft, and yes, Rhonda did choose me to be her editor from time to time. She trusted me with that, and that was a great honor indeed. And much of what she said about Tom applies equally to Rhonda. A tireless work ethic, a commitment to getting things absolutely right, the excellence of her writing, and caring about what is right for children with disabilities and their families. I'll miss Rhonda's good thinking, her good counsel, her feistiness, but most of all, I think I miss her laugh. Especially when she would laugh and get that little snort, when it was something particularly good. To Alan, Alana, and Jordan, I want to thank you for sharing Rhonda with us for so many years. The work she did is important to so many people who will never even know it was her behind the scenes. The person that she was to all of us is unforgettable, and the difference she made in this world is remarkable. As Rhonda joins those who have gone before her, may she rest in peace, and may her memory be a blessing.
Hi, everybody. I want you to know that I did not coordinate with Lisa, but it shows how true all these points are. As the rabbi said, Rhonda worked at the Department of Education for 41 years. It was not just a job to Rhonda, but a commitment to make education better for children with disabilities. better than it was for her when she was a child in the 1950s. Rhonda and I, and many of our colleagues here today, worked closely with her on the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. She was an excellent lawyer and well respected by all her coworkers. As others have mentioned, she had an incredible memory. No one had the depth of knowledge that Rhonda did. No matter the topic, she knew the statutory language, the legislative history, the regulatory language, the regulatory history, and all the policy documents by heart. While all of us were fumbling around in the early years through our papers and files, and in the later years on the computer, Rhonda would immediately know exactly what we were looking for. And I know many of my colleagues here today or watching online can hear her saying, "Oh, we addressed that issue in a March 5th, 1997 letter to Marilyn Wessels." And she was always right. Always. She was an excellent writer and editor. She wrote clearly and concisely and was a stickler for grammar. She would write and rewrite a document, making sure that every word was correct. But it was always for the purpose of making it better. And as a result, as Lisa said, she made a major contribution to many of the documents that states, school districts, teachers, parents, and advocates rely on today to understand the requirements of the law. And Alan, fair warning, she would often laugh and say that she would be editing her own gravestone. And she was so determined. I once put on the headphones she used to hear the robotic voice she relied on to hear the words on her computer. This task became even more difficult when the document was being edited, often by several people. The robotic voice would say what words were being inserted, what words were being deleted, and the language in the comment bubble explaining why that change was being made. But she persisted, as she did, and she would listen again and again until she got it right. And finally, we were friends who talked about our lives and our families. We talked about what we were doing over the weekend. She loved to talk about restaurants and was a very tough food critic. In the office of the General Counsel, we often refer to ourselves as a family. After all, you often spend more time with your work colleagues than your own family. You share happy times in your life, like marriages and children and vacations, and you share sad times like illnesses and death. I know from Adina, our colleague who's here today, and Rhonda's dear friend, that OGC met yesterday to share stories about Rhonda. I understand it was moving, and I hope that you'll share those stories with Alan, Alana, and Jordan in the days to come, so that they truly understand the significant contributions Rhonda made to the Department of Education, and more importantly, to children with disabilities across the nation. I will miss Rhonda terribly, and I know she will be missed by her whole OGC family.
Thank you so much, Lisa Pagano and Nancy Deutsch. I don't know if Joel Schwartz is here. I think we can hear you.
No.
It's going to be better if you use the microphone. Can you come around?
He has to use the microphone because of the Zoom. Zoom. He has to come up. The live stream won't hear him.
Can we give you a hand, Joel? It's a paved path here. Norman?
No, not that way. Yeah, there you go.
We're waiting for Joel Schwartz, a longtime friend of Rhonda and Alan.
Yep, I am. Thank you.
Your stick is the word.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Yes. Like some of the good folks who spoke, Alan, the kids, Marley, the work associates, I did not know Rhonda as well as they did. However, I have, I suppose, some significant position for insight in that I'm maybe Al's oldest friend, 60 years maybe a little more. We grew up together in New Jersey, and that friendship has stayed strong through all the years. And one of the things I'm grateful for that's in her character, Rhonda never stood in the way of our friendship. That was an element, strong element in her character. And I do remember one incident in particular. I had a stroke several years ago, recovered pretty well. And it was Rhonda who came with Al and the children to where I was. And I could perfectly understand what everybody else was saying, but nobody could make sense of what I was saying. It was one of those kinds of things. Who knows what would have happened? Anyway, it was Rhonda who broke out crying for me. I heard that very strongly. I wanted to add one bit, and I don't know if this is so, but one of my favorite Jewish understandings is the existence in every generation of the Lovniks, the 36 people who, according to legend, the 36 Jews who absolutely, and perhaps non-Jews as well, who absolutely allow the world to continue to exist. And these people don't know each other by the understanding of the story. They don't even know themselves that they're part of the 36. But I suspect all the people I know, Rhonda is one of those at the top of the list. Her steadfastness and her integrity and her honor, as all of you have spoken about, are something that Rhonda carried with her. And I could imagine very well that she is one of the 36. Thank you. If someone can pull me back to, yeah, I appreciate it. My pleasure.
Turn all the way.
The other one? Okay.
No. I'm turning this way. Keep turning this way.
Okay. Will do.
We're going to read and chant the 23rd Psalm. Those of you who are members of Fabringen can, even in a second, recall Rhonda singing this for us many, many times. Many times. And I'm going to be joined by Hassan Ramon Tassat to chant the Hebrew. Alan's beautiful and strong poem reminded me of something that Chaim Nachman Bialik wrote, a very short poem that I'll transgender into the feminine. Afrei moti siptu kachali, hayita isha uru'u, einena od. After my death, mourn me thus. There was a woman, and see, she is no more. Before her time, her life was ended, and the song of her life was broken. Oh, she had one more melody, And now that melody is lost forever. Lost forever. But the melody of Rhonda's life will be with us. Will be with us. Those who wish can join me in the 23rd Psalm. It's on the inside of the program. Eternal One, you are my shepherd, I shall not want. You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside still waters. You restore my soul. You guide me in paths of righteousness for your name's sake. Even when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. With rod and staff you comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup is overflowing. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in your house forever.
So I wanted to thank Alan for giving me the opportunity to honor Rhonda. It means so much to me. I wanted to say that we have studied together very carefully the voice, and when she applied it to the tefillah, the gates of heaven opened. As a Sephardic Jew, I didn't quite understand why Psalm 23 is the one that is used for funerals, because perhaps the words kosi revaya, my cup is overflowing. But in the case of Rhonda, when it says gam ki elech begates al mabet, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, lo yirava, I have no fear, ki ata imadi, because you, God, are with me. I understand that that's absolutely true. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai Elohim Lorsa, Mina Desheyar B'Teni, Al Mei Menuchot Yenaleni, Nafshi Yeshodeh, Nafshi Yeshodeh, Yanacheni b'maglei tzedek, Leman Shemo.
Thank you, Rabbi Jerry Serrata and Chazan Ramon Tassat. In just a moment, I'm going to ask folks to rise, everyone in spirit and in body as well, if possible, for the El Malei Rachamim. I know we've been going a while, and I don't know if anybody is feeling faint or in need of a chair, and perhaps some of the folks who are seated might offer their chairs to anyone who could use one. So let me allow that to happen as Rachel Braun steps forward. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina B'malot Kedoshim U'Tehorim Kizohar Harakia Mazhirim et Nishmat Rezel Gittel Bad Yosef Moshe V'Bat Bunya Shahalcha La'olama B'gan Eden Tehei Menuchata Lachin Bal Harachamim Yastirecha B'Seter Kenafav Leolamim V'Yitzra B'Tzra Chaim et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'Tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava V'Nomar Amen. God, filled with mercy, dwelling in the heavens' heights, bring to proper rest beneath the wings of your Shekhinah, amid the ranks of the holy and the pure, illuminating like the brilliance of the skies the soul of Rhonda Weiss, who has gone to her eternal place of rest. May you, who are the source of mercy, shelter her beneath your wings eternally, and bind her soul among the living, that she may rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Amen. You may have a seat. We come now to the hardest part of the service, returning Rhonda's body to the earth, reminding ourselves that we are made of the stuff of earth, and like all creatures, we are alive on this earth just a short time. It is our mitzvah to care for our loved ones all the way to the end, to see them safely buried in their final resting place, and to know that we have done for them all that we can do. I'm going to ask the family to take on this task first, and others can follow if they wish. Because this is such a sad task, it's accustomed to use a shovel in a different manner than we usually do. For example, using the back of the shovel and to stick the shovel back into the earth rather than handing it to the next person. Alan asked for one piece of music during the funeral to be played, the second movement of Beethoven's Seventh Symphony, a piece that he and Rhonda shared a great love for. We will try to get that up and running. The magic of YouTube.
Danger of promise. I know this is hard to hear, but it's important. The shooter murdered.
Symphony 7 seconds.
Using
Folks, feel free to use the shovel the right way after you've done the first one backwards.
Just memorize it.
Just said after you do the first one,
It sounds like that.
When he was a kid, he was such a good singer. And sort of stopped doing it.
In this circumstance, voice relaxed or something deeper. Summons this steadiness of voice, hitting all the notes and all the lyrics, and a cappella.
Our constant wrestling. In the choir that sings some music, about 8 girls that
They're always talking about music.
Why is so
You're actually good for a guy who's going through help. But no, really. So, what wonderful words from everybody. Everybody. Kids look great.
Kids are, accepting.
Yeah. I'm so glad Alana and Rhonda got to be good friends. Besides mother and daughter, I'm sure Alana always knew how much Rhonda loved her. But the fact that they both got closer in this time period, they talked literally every day. Oh. It's one of the great ones. I never got to tell her about Rachel. Rachel, who were still battling a lot of mental health disorders, and somehow went from Montgomery College to Columbia, an Ivy League university like Rhonda did, despite her disabilities. Never got to tell Rhonda. Very, very happy to hear.
What's your major in?
Right now, the major in theory, psycholinguistics, that, in my opinion, will change. But I actually couldn't care less what she majors in. I actually don't care if she majors in anything with career prospects. I told her my goal is that she enjoys Columbia, bright minds, great teachers in New York City, and just do well. I don't care what it is. I don't care. I'm not looking. That made my life. We went to UPenn. Same level. What? Now, have you got your PhD yet, or are you just working on it? Where are you living? And what kind of
As a child, I can't hear it at all. Folks, I'm going to ask just a few more, just another minute or so, and let's resume with the Mourner's Kaddish. Can I ask those who are still in line to just do one shovel's worth so that we can resume the service? Just one. And if folks would you take your seats again or where you were standing, I'll ask the family especially to be on hand for the Mourner's Kaddish. We're going to resume the service, and those who are still in line can stay on afterwards and fulfill this mitzvah. Please join the group again. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. May Rhonda's soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. Please be quiet as we recite the Mourner's Kaddish. Those who wish to recite it in Rhonda's memory may join the family. Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'amad yivrach hirutei v'yamliach malchutei. V'chayehon v'yomechon v'chayeh dechol Beit Yisrael. V'algalau v'zman kari v'yiru amei. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach v'elam u'amei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitasei. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי בקודשה בריחו לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה גם אירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens grant peace and harmony to us, to all Israel, to all peoples of the world, and let us say amen. Goder pratzot b'Yisrael, hu yigdor et hapratzah hazot b'Yisrael l'chaim. May the one who closes up the breaches of Israel close up this breach in our people, granting us life. Shiva will be held tonight, tomorrow night, and Saturday night, both on Zoom and in person on the rooftop deck of Ilana's apartment building, 4400 East West Highway at 7:30 p.m. each evening. Please bring a folding chair if possible, and we hope you'll come and share your stories and memories of Rhonda with the family, both in person and online. As we prepare to leave the cemetery, let's just take one more moment of quiet prayer to say our last goodbyes in our hearts, to remember and to mourn. I'll ask folks to make 2 lines so that the mourners, the family, can walk between the lines and feel the support and love that the community wishes for you to take with you. It's customary to say, Hamakom yenachem etchem. May you find a place of comfort. And join me in singing Shalom, peace and farewell. Shalom.